The millionaire screamed at his nanny, but she saved his daughter's life minutes later. You're about to witness an incredible story of grace under pressure, professional dedication, and how sometimes the people we treat poorly become our greatest heroes. If you're ready for this heart-stopping tale of courage and redemption, smash that like button, subscribe to our channel, and hit the bell icon so you never miss powerful stories like this one. Trust me, what happens next will leave you on the edge of your seat and remind you why we should never underestimate the people who care for those we love most. Let's dive in. The storm clouds gathering over the Hamptons estate matched the tension brewing inside the palatial Thornfield mansion. Real estate mogul Marcus Thornfield stood in his marble-floored foyer, his face flushed with anger as he clutched his smartphone, the screen displaying yet another plummeting stock price. At 43, Marcus had built an empire worth over $200 million through aggressive business tactics and an unforgiving perfectionism that extended to every aspect of his life. His 14,000-square-foot home overlooked the Atlantic Ocean, furnished with priceless antiques and staffed by a team of professionals who catered to his every need. But today, nothing was going according to plan. The Shanghai deal fell through, he barked into his phone, pacing across the imported Italian marble. How does a $50 million acquisition just collapse overnight? Behind him, 5-year-old Lily Thornfield sat quietly at the bottom of the grand staircase, her small hands gripping the banister as she watched her father's familiar display of fury. With her mother traveling in Europe on an extended art-buying trip that everyone knew was really an escape from Marcus's volcanic temperament, Lily had grown accustomed to these explosive moments. Watching over Lily was Sarah Chen, a 29-year-old nanny who had worked for the Thornfield family for 8 months. Sarah possessed a master's degree in childhood development from Columbia University and had previously worked with several prominent New York families. Her references were impeccable, her credentials impressive, and her patience with difficult employers seemingly endless. Today, however, that patience was about to be tested beyond all reasonable limits. "Mr. Thornfield," Sarah approached cautiously, her voice calm and professional, despite the storm brewing around them. Lily's piano lesson was supposed to start 20 minutes ago. Should I call Ms. Rodriguez and reschedule? Marcus spun around, his steel-gray eyes blazing with misdirected rage. Do I look like I care about piano lessons right now? I'm losing millions of dollars, and you're worried about some trivial music lesson? Sarah maintained her composure, though Lily visibly flinched at her father's harsh tone. I understand you're dealing with important business matters, sir. I just wanted to confirm Lily's schedule so she doesn't miss her schedule. Marcus's voice rose to a near shout. Let me tell you something about schedules, Sarah. My schedule involves saving this family's entire financial future. Your schedule involves keeping a 5-year-old entertained. Don't confuse the two. The words hit like physical blows, but Sarah kept her expression neutral. She had worked with demanding employers before, but Marcus Thornfield's cruelty was in a category of its own. He seemed to take perverse pleasure in belittling the staff, as if their diminishment somehow elevated his own importance. Of course, sir, Sarah replied quietly. I'll keep Lily occupied until you're available to discuss her activities. Available? Marcus laughed harshly. I'm running a $200 million empire. I don't have time to micromanage every minute of a child's day. That's what I pay you for, though frankly, for what you cost, I could hire 3 competent nannies. Lily's eyes filled with tears, and she pressed herself further against the staircase banister. Sarah noticed immediately and moved protectively closer to the little girl. Mr. Thornfield, Sarah said, her voice gaining a slight edge, perhaps we could continue this conversation privately. The suggestion only inflamed Marcus further. Don't tell me how to conduct myself in my own home. And don't presume to know what's appropriate in front of my daughter. You're hired help, Sarah, nothing more. Your job is to follow instructions, not to give them. Sarah's training in childhood psychology made her acutely aware of the psychological damage these outbursts were inflicting on Lily. The little girl was developing anxiety responses that showed in her withdrawn behavior, her reluctance to express needs, and her hypervigilance around her father's moods. "I apologize if I overstepped," Sarah said, though her tone suggested she wasn't sorry at all. "My only concern is Lily's well-being." "Her well-being?" Marcus's voice dripped with sarcasm. "Her well-being depends on me maintaining the fortune that pays for this house, her education, her future, not on whether she makes it to piano lessons on time." The argument was interrupted by Marcus's phone ringing again. He glanced at the caller ID and his face darkened further. "This is the call I've been waiting for," he snapped at Sarah. "Keep Lily quiet and out of my way. And next time you want to question my priorities, remember that you're replaceable." There are hundreds of nannies who would love this job. As Marcus stalked toward his study, Sarah knelt down beside Lily, whose tears were now flowing freely. "Hey, sweetheart," Sarah whispered gently, pulling out a tissue to dry Lily's cheeks. "Everything's okay. Daddy's just worried about work stuff. It has nothing to do with you." Lily nodded silently, but Sarah could see the confusion and hurt in her young eyes. Children this age internalize their parents' emotions, often blaming themselves for adult conflicts they couldn't understand. "How about we go to your playroom?" Sarah suggested. "We could work on that puzzle we started yesterday, or maybe read some stories." As they climbed the stairs together, Sarah's mind was churning with conflicting emotions. Her professional training told her that Lily was being psychologically harmed by these explosive encounters, but her economic reality reminded her that jobs like this were scarce and well-paying positions even rarer. Sarah came from a working-class family in Queens. Her parents had sacrificed enormously to put her through Columbia University, and her student loan payments consumed a significant portion of her salary. The Thornfield position paid exceptionally well, enough to allow her to support herself in Manhattan while sending money home to help with her younger brother's college tuition. But watching Lily's spirit slowly erode under her father's casual cruelty was becoming unbearable. "Sarah?" Lily's small voice interrupted her thoughts as they reached the second-floor playroom. "Yes, sweetie? Is Daddy mad at me?" Sarah's heart broke a little more. She knelt down to Lily's eye level, taking the child's small hands in hers. "No, honey, Daddy isn't mad at you at all. Sometimes grown-ups get worried about work and they forget to use their nice voices. But that doesn't mean it's your fault, okay?" Lily nodded, but Sarah could see the doubt lingering in her expressive brown eyes. They settled into the playroom, a beautifully appointed space filled with educational toys, art supplies, and books that Marcus had spared no expense in creating. It was one of the few areas of the house where Lily seemed truly comfortable, perhaps because it was removed from the main flow of adult activity. As Lily worked on a jigsaw puzzle, Sarah found herself studying the little girl more closely than usual. Something seemed off today. Lily appeared slightly pale, and she had been complaining of a stomachache earlier in the morning. "Lily, how's your tummy feeling?" Sarah asked casually. "It hurts a little," Lily admitted, not looking up from her puzzle pieces. Sarah's professional training had taught her to pay attention to children's physical complaints, especially when they coincided with emotional stress. Sometimes physical symptoms were psychosomatic responses to anxiety, but they could also indicate genuine medical issues. "Can you show me where it hurts?" Lily pointed to her lower right abdomen, and Sarah felt a small spike of concern. The location was consistent with several possible issues, most of which were minor, but her training had taught her never to dismiss a child's pain. "Is it a sharp hurt or a dull hurt?" Sarah asked gently. "Kind of sharp," Lily said, wincing slightly as she pressed her hand to the area. Sarah made a mental note to monitor the situation closely. Children Lily's age could be dramatic about minor discomforts, but they could also be stoic about serious pain. The key was watching for patterns and changes. Over the next hour, Sarah noticed that Lily seemed increasingly uncomfortable. She was having difficulty focusing on activities, shifting positions frequently, and her appetite was completely gone when Sarah offered her usual afternoon snack. Most concerning was Lily's slight fever, which Sarah discovered when she instinctively felt the child's forehead during a particularly quiet moment. "Lily, sweetheart, I think we need to take your temperature," Sarah said, trying to keep her voice calm. The thermometer read 100.8 degrees Fahrenheit, not dangerously high, but definitely indicative of something brewing in Lily's system. Sarah's concern deepened when Lily suddenly doubled over, crying out in genuine pain. The cry was different from the usual childhood complaints, sharper, more urgent. "Lily, honey, tell me exactly what you're feeling," Sarah said, kneeling beside the child. "It really, really hurts," Lily sobbed, clutching her side, "and I feel sick." Sarah's medical training kicked into high gear. The combination of lower right abdominal pain, fever, and nausea in a 5-year-old created a constellation of symptoms that could indicate several serious conditions, most notably appendicitis. She needed to get Lily medical attention immediately, but she also knew that approaching Marcus in his current state would likely result in another explosive confrontation. Still, Lily's well-being had to take priority over workplace politics. Sarah helped Lily to her bed and tucked her in with strict instructions not to move around unnecessarily. Then she steeled herself for what was likely to be an unpleasant conversation with Marcus. She found him in his study, still on the phone, gesticulating wildly as he berated someone about market projections and investor confidence. Sarah waited at the doorway for several minutes, but when Lily called out in pain from upstairs, she knew she couldn't wait any longer. "Mr. Thornfield," she said quietly but firmly, "I need to speak with you. It's about Lily." Marcus looked up with annoyance and held up one finger, indicating she should wait. But when Lily's cry of pain echoed down the hallway again, Sarah stepped fully into the study. "Sir, this is urgent. Lily needs medical attention." Marcus covered his phone with his hand and fixed Sarah with a look of pure fury. "Are you out of your mind? I'm in the middle of the most important call of my career, and you're interrupting me because of what? A scraped knee? She has a fever, severe abdominal pain, and symptoms that could indicate what? That she's tired? That she wants attention? Children get stomach aches, Sarah. That's what children do." Sarah felt her professional composure finally beginning to crack. "Mr. Thornfield, with respect, I have medical training. These symptoms together are concerning and require immediate medical training." Marcus's voice rose dangerously. "You're a nanny, not a doctor. Stop pretending to be something you're not." "I have a master's degree in childhood development with coursework in pediatric health," Sarah shot back, her patience finally exhausted. "I've worked with children for 8 years, and I'm telling you that Lily needs to see a doctor. Now." Marcus stood up abruptly, his face red with rage. "How dare you raise your voice to me? How dare you tell me what my daughter needs? You're nothing but hired help who's forgotten her place." The shouting match that followed was heard throughout the house. Marcus accused Sarah of being dramatic, attention-seeking, and completely incompetent. Sarah, for her part, abandoned all pretense of professional deference and fought back with equal intensity. "Your daughter is in pain, and all you can think about is your wounded ego," Sarah said, her voice shaking with controlled fury. "What kind of father puts his pride before his child's health? The kind who's built everything this family has," Marcus roared back. "The kind who knows the difference between real problems and manufactured drama designed to get attention. If this intense confrontation has you hooked, don't forget to show your support by hitting that like button and subscribing to our channel for more gripping stories of courage and redemption. And make sure to ring that notification bell, because what happens next will completely change everything you think you know about this situation." The argument reached a crescendo when Marcus made the declaration that would haunt him for months to come. "You know what, Sarah? I've had enough of your insubordination, your constant questioning of my judgment, and your delusions about your own importance. You're fired. Pack your things and get out of my house." Sarah stared at him in shock. "You're firing me while your daughter is upstairs sick. My daughter has a minor stomachache that will resolve itself with rest. What won't resolve itself is having an employee who thinks she can dictate terms to her employer. I want you gone within the hour." Sarah's mind reeled. Being fired would be financially devastating. She wouldn't be able to make her student loan payments, and her brother's college tuition was due next month. But more than her own concerns, she was terrified for Lily's safety. "Mr. Thornfield, please," she tried once more, her anger giving way to genuine desperation. "I'm begging you to have Lily examined by a doctor. Even if you fire me, even if you never want to see me again, please don't ignore her symptoms." "Get out," Marcus said coldly, "before I call security." Sarah stood frozen for a moment, torn between self-preservation and her duty to protect the child she had come to love. Then Lily's voice rang out from upstairs, a sharp cry of pain that was unmistakably different from anything Sarah had heard before. Without hesitation, Sarah turned and ran toward the stairs, Marcus's shouts of "Come back here!" echoing behind her. She found Lily curled up on her bedroom floor, crying and clutching her stomach. The child's face was flushed with fever, and she was having difficulty speaking through the pain. "Lily, honey, I'm here," Sarah said, dropping to her knees beside the child. "Tell me what happened." "It hurts so much," Lily gasped. "It hurts so much I can't stand up." Sarah gently examined Lily's abdomen, noting the increased rigidity and the way the child cried out when gentle pressure was applied to the lower right quadrant. These were classic signs of acute appendicitis, and if Sarah was right, they were facing a medical emergency. Marcus appeared in the doorway, still furious, but slightly taken aback by the scene before him. "What's wrong with her?" he demanded. "I believe Lily has appendicitis," Sarah said, lifting the child carefully. "We need to get her to a hospital immediately." "Appendicitis?" Marcus's anger flickered with the first hint of concern. That's serious, isn't it?" "It can be life-threatening if the appendix ruptures," Sarah said, carrying Lily toward the door. "We need to move now." For the first time all day, Marcus was speechless. He watched as Sarah, the woman he had just fired and humiliated, gently carried his daughter down the stairs toward the garage. "My car is faster," he said quietly, his bluster completely deflated. The drive to Southampton Hospital was a blur of sirens, flashing lights, and Marcus's desperate phone calls to pediatric specialists. Sarah sat in the back seat, holding Lily and monitoring her vital signs, offering comfort and reassurance while her own heart pounded with fear. "Is she going to be okay?" Marcus asked, glancing in the rearview mirror as they raced through the rainy afternoon. "If we caught it in time, yes," Sarah replied, stroking Lily's fevered forehead. "Appendectomies are routine procedures when performed before rupture." At the hospital, everything moved with frightening speed. Lily was rushed into the emergency room, where Dr. Patricia Gonzalez, the chief of pediatric surgery, confirmed Sarah's diagnosis within minutes. "Classic presentation of acute appendicitis," Dr. Gonzalez explained to Marcus as nurses prepared Lily for surgery. "We need to operate within the hour. You got her here just in time. Another few hours, and we could have been looking at a much more serious situation." As Lily was wheeled into the operating room, Marcus found himself alone with Sarah in the surgical waiting area. The silence stretched between them, heavy with the weight of everything that had transpired. "I was wrong," Marcus said finally, his voice barely above a whisper. Sarah looked up from the medical forms she was helping to complete. "About what?" "About everything. About you, about Lily, about—" He trailed off, running his hands through his hair. "If you hadn't insisted, if you hadn't fought me, if you had just done what I said and left." "She would have gotten sicker," Sarah finished quietly. "Her appendix might have ruptured. She could have died." The words hung in the air like an accusation. Marcus stared at the sterile hospital walls, finally confronting the reality of what his pride and anger had almost cost him. "I fired you," he said, the words sounding hollow and meaningless now. "Yes, you did. You could have left. You should have left. I was screaming at you, insulting you, threatening you. Any reasonable person would have walked away." Sarah was quiet for a long moment before answering. "I couldn't leave her, Marcus. I loved that little girl. She needed someone to fight for her when she couldn't fight for herself." Marcus felt tears threatening, a sensation he hadn't experienced in years. "I don't understand how you can care so much about someone who isn't even your own child." "That's what makes someone a good caregiver," Sarah replied simply. "The ability to love children as if they were your own, to put their needs above your own comfort, your own safety, your own job security. And I threw that away. I threw away the best thing that ever happened to Lily because I was too proud to admit I was wrong." The surgery took 3 hours. When Dr. Gonzalez finally emerged to speak with them, her expression was serious but reassuring. "The surgery went perfectly," she announced. "We removed the appendix before rupture, and Lily should make a complete recovery. She'll need to stay in the hospital for a couple of days, but she's going to be fine." Marcus sagged with relief, and Sarah felt tears of gratitude streaming down her cheeks. "Can we see her?" Marcus asked. "She's in recovery now. You can visit briefly once she wakes up." As Dr. Gonzalez walked away, Marcus turned to Sarah with an expression of profound gratitude and shame. "I owe you an apology," he said, "the biggest apology of my life." Sarah nodded but didn't speak. "I owe you more than an apology," Marcus continued. "I owe you my daughter's life, and I owe you an explanation for why I was such a complete bastard." "You don't owe me anything, Mr. Thornfield. I'm just glad Lily is okay." "No, I do owe you an explanation. And please, call me Marcus. After everything you've done, formality seems absurd." Marcus sat down heavily in one of the waiting room chairs, suddenly looking older than his 43 years. "I've spent so much time building walls," he said quietly. "Walls around my business, around my money, around my family. I convinced myself that those walls were protecting us, but really they were just protecting my ego. Today, those walls almost cost me everything that actually matters." Sarah listened without judgment, recognizing the pain of someone finally confronting their own flaws. "When my wife left," Marcus continued, "she said I was more concerned with being respected than with being loved. She said I treated everyone around me like employees instead of people. I told myself she was wrong, that she just couldn't handle the pressure of my success." He paused, staring at his hands. "But she was right. I've been so afraid of being vulnerable, of needing anyone, that I turned into someone who pushes away everyone who tries to care, including the woman who just saved my daughter's life." "Marcus," Sarah said gently, "what matters now is that you recognize it. Lily needs a father who can see her, really see her, not just as an extension of his success. Will you help me?" The question came out as barely a whisper. "Will you help me learn how to be the father she deserves?" Sarah considered the question carefully. "That depends." "On what?" "On whether you're willing to actually change, or if this is just guilt talking." Marcus met her eyes directly. "I'm terrified of changing, but I'm more terrified of losing Lily the way I lost Catherine. Not to death or distance, but to my own inability to love without conditions." Jim, when Lily woke up in the recovery room, groggy from anesthesia but smiling weakly, the first thing she asked for was Sarah. "Is Sarah here?" she whispered, her small voice hoarse from the breathing tube. "I'm right here, sweetheart," Sarah said, taking Lily's hand gently. "You saved me," Lily said with the profound simplicity that only children possess. "We all saved you," Sarah replied, glancing at Marcus. "Your daddy got you to the hospital really fast." Lily looked at her father with new eyes. "Daddy was scared?" "Very scared," Marcus admitted, his voice thick with emotion. "More scared than I've ever been in my life." Over the following days, as Lily recovered in the hospital, Marcus and Sarah had many long conversations about parenting, about recognizing children's needs, and about the importance of trusting the people whose job it is to care for those we love most. Marcus learned that Sarah's interference over the months had actually been a series of professional interventions designed to support Lily's emotional development. Her suggestions about routine, discipline, and emotional support weren't criticisms of his parenting. They were attempts to help him become the father Lily needed. "Why didn't you just tell me?" Marcus asked during one of these conversations. "I tried," Sarah replied honestly, "but you weren't ready to hear it. You interpreted every suggestion as an attack on your authority instead of an offer to help. And now," Sarah studied his face carefully, "now I think you're ready to learn." A week after Lily's surgery, Marcus made an announcement that surprised everyone, including himself. "I'm taking a leave of absence from active management of the company," he told Sarah as they watched Lily play in the hospital's children's garden. 6 months, maybe more. I want to focus on being Lily's father instead of just her provider. That's a big decision. It's the right decision. I've been so focused on building a legacy that I almost forgot to build a relationship with the person who's supposed to inherit that legacy." Sarah smiled. "I think Lily would prefer a present father to a wealthy one." "What about you?" Marcus asked. "Would you be willing to stay on? Not as just a nanny, but as, I don't know what to call it, a family counselor, a co-parent, a partner in helping me figure out how to be better at this?" Sarah considered the offer. The money was still important. Her financial pressures hadn't disappeared. But more than that, she genuinely loved Lily and had come to believe that Marcus was capable of real change. "I have conditions," she said finally. "Name them." "First, no more screaming. Not at me, not at Lily, not at anyone in front of Lily. Children need calm, predictable adults." "Agreed." "Second, we make decisions about Lily together. You're her father and the final authority, but I need to be able to advocate for her without fear of being fired." "Absolutely." "Third, we get family counseling, all of us. You need professional help learning to manage your anger, and Lily needs support processing everything she's been through." Marcus nodded. "What else?" "That's it. Those are my conditions." "That's all? After everything I put you through, those are your only demands?" Sarah smiled. "I'm not interested in punishment, Marcus. I'm interested in making sure Lily grows up in a home filled with love instead of fear." 6 months later, the Thornfield home was transformed. The marble floors still gleamed, and the ocean views were still breathtaking. But the atmosphere was completely different. Marcus had indeed taken leave from his company, discovering that the world didn't end when he stepped back from daily operations. His capable management team had handled the challenges admirably, and many of the crises that had once sent him into rages now seemed manageable and temporary. More importantly, he had learned to see Lily, really see her. He discovered that his daughter was brilliant, funny, creative, and surprisingly resilient, despite the emotional challenges she had faced. Their daily routine now included regular father-daughter activities, morning walks on the beach, collaborative cooking projects, bedtime stories where Lily got to contribute plot twists. Marcus had learned to listen to her concerns, validate her feelings, and support her growing independence. Sarah remained with the family, but her role had evolved into something unprecedented in her career. She was part nanny, part family therapist, part co-parent, and entirely essential to the new dynamic they had created. The family counseling sessions had been challenging but transformative. Marcus had confronted the childhood experiences that had taught him to equate vulnerability with weakness. Lily had learned to express her needs and feelings without fear of explosive reactions. And Sarah had learned to advocate firmly but kindly for the children in her care. Dr. Jennifer Walsh, their family therapist, had been amazed by the progress. "I've rarely seen such dramatic positive change in family dynamics," she told them during one of their sessions. "Marcus, Your willingness to examine and change ingrained patterns is remarkable. And Sarah, your ability to maintain professional boundaries while providing genuine emotional support has been crucial to this transformation. Meanwhile, the real test came when Catherine returned from her extended European trip, expecting to find the same dysfunction she had left behind. Instead, she discovered a home where her daughter was thriving, and her ex-husband had become the involved, emotionally available parent she had always hoped he could be. "What happened here?" Catherine asked Sarah privately during her first visit. "Lily got sick and Marcus got scared," Sarah replied simply. "Sometimes it takes a crisis to show us what really matters." Catherine spent several days observing the new family dynamic, watching Marcus and Lily interact with a warmth and connection she had never seen before. She saw her daughter confident and secure, expressing herself freely without the anxiety that had marked her early years. "I want to try again," Catherine told Marcus during a private conversation. "Not romantically, we're past that, but as a family, as co-parents who put Lily first." Marcus was hesitant but open to the possibility. "It would have to be different this time. I'm different. My priorities are different. I can see that, and I'm different too. Europe gave me time to think about my own role in what went wrong between us." The process of rebuilding their co-parenting relationship was slow and required continued family therapy, but it was built on the foundation of genuine change, rather than simply good intentions. A year after the appendicitis crisis, Sarah received an offer that would have seemed impossible before. Marcus asked her to consider becoming a permanent part of their extended family structure, with a salary and benefits package that reflected her true value to Lily's development. "I know it's unconventional," Marcus said as they watched Lily play with her cousins at a family barbecue, "but conventional didn't work for us. You're not just Lily's caregiver. You're the person who taught me how to be her father." Sarah looked around at the scene before her. Lily was laughing freely, secure in the knowledge that the adults around her were committed to her well-being. Marcus was relaxed and present, engaged with his daughter in ways that would have been unimaginable 2 years earlier. Even Catherine was smiling as she helped Lily with the art project. "It's not just unconventional," Sarah replied. "It's exactly what Lily needs." "Is that a yes?" Sarah smiled, watching Lily run over to show her the drawing she had just completed, a picture of their family that included Sarah prominently in the center. "That's a yes." As the sun set over the Hamptons estate that evening, Marcus reflected on the journey that had brought them to this point. The crisis that had nearly destroyed everything had ultimately saved them all. His willingness to fire Sarah for doing her job had forced him to confront the toxic patterns that were poisoning his relationship with his daughter. Sarah's refusal to abandon Lily, even when her own job was threatened, had demonstrated a love and commitment that humbled him. Her courage in fighting for Lily's medical care had literally saved his daughter's life. But perhaps most importantly, the whole experience had taught him that strength wasn't about maintaining control over others. It was about having the courage to change when change was needed. That night, as Sarah tucked Lily into bed, the little girl made an observation that captured the transformation perfectly. "Sarah," Lily said sleepily, "I'm glad you didn't leave when Daddy was being mean." "I could never leave you, sweetheart," Sarah replied, smoothing Lily's hair. "I know. That's why you're the best nanny in the whole world." "What makes you think that?" Lily considered the question with the seriousness that children bring to important matters. "Because you love me, even when it's hard to love me. And you helped Daddy learn how to love me better too." As Sarah turned off the lights and headed downstairs, she found Marcus waiting in the hallway. "Thank you," he said quietly. "For what?" "For seeing what I couldn't see. For fighting when I wouldn't listen. For loving my daughter enough to risk everything to protect her." Sarah smiled. "That's what love does, Marcus. It fights for what matters, even when it's difficult. I'm still learning that. We all are. The important thing is that Lily gets to grow up in a home where love wins." As they walked downstairs together, Sarah reflected on the unexpected journey that had brought her to this moment. She had come to the Thornfield family as a nanny looking for a job. She had stayed as an advocate fighting for a child's well-being, and now she remained as something entirely new, a chosen family member whose love and dedication had helped heal wounds that went back generations. The woman who had been fired for caring too much had become the cornerstone of a family's transformation. And in saving Lily's life, she had also saved Marcus's soul and her own future. Sometimes the greatest victories come not from getting what we want, but from refusing to abandon what we know is right. Sarah Chen had learned that lesson in the most dramatic way possible, and the little girl sleeping peacefully upstairs was living proof that love, courage, and professional dedication could overcome even the most impossible circumstances. This incredible story of courage, redemption, and the power of putting children first shows us that sometimes our greatest heroes are the people we overlook every day. If this touching journey moved you, please share that feeling by hitting the like button and subscribing to our channel for more inspiring stories about the extraordinary people who care for our most precious treasures. Don't forget to ring that notification bell, because every child deserves an advocate like Sarah, and every parent deserves the chance to learn and grow. Remember, it's never too late to change, and it's never wrong to fight for what's right. Until next time, cherish the people who love your children as their own.